My husband, 32-year-old male, and I, 31-year-old female, are a military family. We have been married for 3 years, but have been together for 7 years. He is currently deployed to a calm location with no combat and has short work days and weekends off. I am currently living alone in our home as we are stationed overseas. He is set to return in a few months. It is nice to have him deployed in a way because I have the home to myself and can maintain it the way I like. I don't have to do things that he likes, such as rubbing his back every night. I only have to cook meals if I want to. Additionally, because he is not here, I don't have to worry about finding any crumbs or dipping tobacco in my sheets. However, it does get lonely here sometimes. Right now, I'm alone in this foreign place, but I try to make the best of it because it is beautiful. My husband is not very emotionally available for me, the way I would like him to be. However, I manage and try to be patient for the most part. But generally, he is very loving and affectionate. However, he does not like to talk or be bothered with things outside of his job. He does not like to plan for the future or strategize regarding his career. He also avoids discussing finances and has made a few financial mistakes. Last year, he bought 2 cars that he couldn't afford, thinking he could sell them for a profit. He never attempted to sell them, and now they are sitting in parking lots, rusting away. However, everyone makes financial mistakes. When he was here, he had a hard time being emotionally present for me. I enjoy exploring new places, going for walks, and spending time with loved ones. He outright refused to do those things with me for a long time, and whenever I asked, he would get upset and talk about his job. Things improved and he started taking me out sometimes, but he can still be distant at times. He prefers that I don't go for my daily walks and instead stay home, rub his back, and watch TV or movies with him until he falls asleep. In many ways, this deployment is a welcome break from that chaos. For a while, he seemed happier being away, interacting with different people from other units. But it appears that things have taken a turn. Last week, I asked him if he could spare some time to talk to me later in the day, as I had received devastating news about a close family member that I needed to discuss. He agreed, but he never specified a time. He finished work early that day and mentioned he was going to take a nap. However, when the time came, he completely flaked on our conversation, claiming he wasn't feeling well. The next day, I followed up with him and brought up the topic of our planned talk. He told me that he felt like he was going through depression and that many other soldiers were experiencing something similar. He said he could still go out and do things, but talking took a toll on him. I shifted the conversation and tried to encourage him, asking if there was anything I could do to help. He mentioned that sending funny videos would be helpful, and he enjoyed seeing photos and videos of my life overseas. So I sent him some, but he didn't engage much with them. The week continued with very little communication on his part. I would only get bits and pieces of information. He would spend time eating, drinking, and socializing with colleagues after work, but he didn't talk to me or share what was going on internally with him. I expressed how much this hurt my feelings, and that I didn't feel like he was prioritizing our relationship, especially during a time when I really needed to talk. Fast forward to this past weekend. My husband and I had a brief phone conversation on Saturday evening about passwords for certain channels. At the end of the conversation, I once again expressed my frustration and sadness about his lack of communication with me. He told me he understood and loved me. We ended the call and I felt relieved that we had the opportunity to talk and that he seemed to understand where I was coming from. I went to bed on Saturday night feeling content, but I forgot to text him goodnight. On Sunday morning, I woke up and noticed that my husband hadn't texted me and his phone was actually turned off. It remained off for most of the day. I texted him good morning and carried on with my day. Hours later, he responded with a good morning, and I asked him how his night was. Usually when his phone dies overnight, it's because he has been drinking. He often falls asleep and forgets to charge his phone, among other things. I didn't hear anything from him for a while, and then it hit me that just the night before, he had told me he understood my frustrations with his communication. Yet he continued to fail to communicate and prioritize our relationship. I expressed to him that I was bothered by all of this. He responded later and asked for a few minutes to wake up before he could give me a rundown of what happened the previous night. 2 hours went by, and I still didn't hear anything from him. Then, he told me that he actually had an accident last night, not related to a car, and ended up soiling himself, his bed, and his rug. He had spent the past couple of hours cleaning up and felt terrible about it. I sympathized with him and apologized for what he was going through, but I made it clear that it had nothing to do with the issues we were having between us. He became upset and said, "Yeah, I'm going through some things, but I promise to address your concerns as well." His response felt like a slap in the face to me. Then, he expressed that he wanted some space. This request triggered me because, one, he tends to ask for space at the slightest sign of conflict between us, but he never offers a specific time to reconnect and work through our problems. Left unchecked, he can take days or weeks of space. 2, I feel incredibly let down by his tendency to shut down and avoid communication, especially at a time when I'm expressing valid concerns. This is where things took a turn that I'm not proud of. I feel deeply ashamed and responsible for my actions. Yet at the same time, I'm upset and feel justified. I spend the next 2 hours incessantly calling him, demanding that he talk to me. I sent him message after message, begging him to answer the phone. I initially told him not to speak to me for the rest of the deployment, but then I found myself begging for just 5 minutes of conversation. It was chaotic. I continued this behavior for about 2 hours straight. He ended up blocking me on his iPhone, but left me unblocked on WhatsApp. He let the phone ring continuously, which perplexed me. In hindsight, he may have been letting it ring to show his friends how crazy his wife is, or to document evidence of how crazy, unhinged, and disrespectful of boundaries I can be, just in case we split up and get a divorce. Regardless of his reasoning, he allowed me to continue calling until past midnight his time and 2 a.m. my time. And this is where we stand now. How do I recover from this messed up situation that I've created? I feel so terrible for ruining his night and potentially disrupting his Monday morning. At the same time, I am frustrated that he doesn't seem to care about me. I feel hurt and also question whether I lack self-respect and self-love. How do I move forward from these feelings of hurt and shame? You know what I despise? I despise how this dysfunctional relationship with this guy can sometimes make me so desperate. Why do I continue to care and try with someone who soils himself in drunken episodes and actively avoids meaningful communication with me? I feel awful about myself this morning. I feel alone in my relationship and afraid to be by myself. How can I make things right? First with myself and then with him. Despite his poor treatment of me, I truly believe that I owe him an apology for the way I called and disregarded his need for space. That is not the person I want to be. But is that who I am? It's what I did in a moment of weakness. How do I recover from this? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You did what you did because this man refuses at every single point to engage with you in a healthy and productive way. He gives you nothing and you are just trying and trying and trying. I don't even see this as a romantic relationship. Your reaction was a lot, but it's just because you've been building up all this rightful rage and resentment towards him, and you finally couldn't hold back anymore. And it'll happen again as long as you're with him, because this man has no interest in being your partner, and he is not going to change. If you don't want to deal with this miserable dynamic for the rest of your life, you get a divorce and find someone who treats you better than this. It won't be that hard. Comment 2. Ooh, damn. This sounds like the relationship between my parents, including the overseas part. You two don't have kids, do you? I remember how much stress my mother was in when Dad was emotionally unavailable, and we were living in a new country. She ended up drunk for 2 years. My parents stuck it out, but in hindsight, they desperately needed couples therapy and individual therapy. I'm convinced that my dad is autistic, and because he lived with that undiagnosed, it turned him into someone who could not easily acknowledge when he hurt his loved ones. He made my mother miserable for a long, long time. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for more of my life soap opera. So, after that whole mess with the incessant calling and him blocking me, I thought things couldn't get worse. I was wrong. The next day, I found out through a mutual friend that my husband had been seen out at a bar. cozying up with a female colleague. My heart sank. I confronted him about it over WhatsApp, and he didn't deny it. He said they were just friends, but I knew better. The trust was broken. I was reeling from the betrayal when I got a call from my bank. Turns out, my husband had taken out a loan in both our names before he left and hadn't made a single payment. The bank was calling to tell me our credit was tanking, and I was furious. How could he not only cheat on me, but also leave me drowning in debt? I called him again, this time to confront him about the loan. He was dismissive, saying he'd sort it out when he got back. But I couldn't wait that long. I took matters into my own hands, called the bank, and set up a payment plan. It was going to be tough on my own, but I had no choice. The next blow came when I received a package. It was from my husband, and inside was a letter. He wanted a separation. He said he needed time to figure things out and that the distance had made him realize he wasn't happy. I was devastated, but also angry. After everything, this was how he told me? I spent the next few days in a daze, trying to process it all. But then I got a call from the base. My husband had been in an altercation with another soldier and was being sent home early. I was in shock. When he arrived, things were tense. We barely spoke, and when we did, it was to argue. I couldn't take it anymore. I told him I wanted him out of the house. He packed his bags and went to stay with a friend. I changed the locks the next day. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but I knew it was right for me. Now I'm trying to pick up the pieces of my life. I'm working on the debt and trying to rebuild my credit. I'm also seeing a therapist to help me work through the betrayal and the hurt. It's not easy, but I'm determined to come out of this stronger. Thanks for reading. It's been a rough couple of weeks, but I'm getting through it. Ada for giving my partner one last chance to clean up their act. Before I clean out our relationship, I have trouble knowing what is fair in this relationship at this point. I'm thinking about leaving, but in the meanwhile, I have to make some sort of rules for this. Any ideas? I'm 30 years old. He's near 40 years old. I study from home. My days aren't stressful, and my hours are definitely shorter than his. I can sleep late, but sometimes I have to study on weekends too. I have been unable to study for years until now because of health issues. I'm doing my absolute best, and it's a choice for me to keep a relaxed schedule. He works a physical job outside and seems annoyed that I can sleep and stay home. The thing is, he is incredibly messy and doesn't clean at all during work days, while telling me I'm lazy. He doesn't put his dishes away, clean his plates from food, throw away any trash. The whole kitchen looks like a junkyard when he does something in there. Food and trash all over the table and floor. Burned stuff in the oven that I need to scrape off. Potato peels on the table. Dirty clothes on the floor. He gets mad if he has left rotten food in the fridge because it's my obligation to catch it. The house looks clean thanks to me, and the kitchen is usable and clean. But I can't stay on top of everything. I'm actually exhausted. It's not about spending time cleaning. It's about feeling like everything is my responsibility mentally or I get told off. The problem is I haven't done much deep cleaning such as mopping since he's done it 4 times a month just fine. I expect him to do this stuff a few times a month as a compromise. Once he starts cleaning something in the house, he will start telling me loudly how I don't do anything and he has to always do everything. He's told me that since I have an easier life, I should clean all of our dishes multiple times a day, clean the kitchen multiple times, keep everything in order, remember everything for him, and also mop and do deep cleaning too, apparently, so that he can relax on the weekend, and wash his laundry, apparently. I don't know where the line is because I feel guilty for having easier days, while he comes home super tired from work. In my head, since I clean every day and he doesn't even throw his own trash in the can, he should do the deep cleaning and other stuff without complaining. And laundry is 50/50ths. I simply feel like he wants my stress level to match his, because I don't seem stressed enough like he is. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. If all chores are your responsibility, does he pay for everything, correct? Because if he wants a traditional wife, he needs to be a traditional husband and pony up the dough. You're better off getting a job as a genuine live-in maid, since there are laws against harassing your employee that he doesn't have to follow if he's just harassing his partner. Leave him. He doesn't actually like you. Comment 2. It's wherever you want it to be. The two of you just have to figure out where your boundaries are and then how close they are. If they're too far apart, perhaps it's time to go your separate ways. In my opinion, you are more right than he is, but I'm not in the relationship. Always remember you can break up with anyone and any time for any reason, or no reason at all. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So, it's been 3 months since I last talked about the mess at home, and things have, well, escalated. I thought I had it rough before, but boy, was I in for a surprise. It started with the kitchen sink. One day, he left it clogged with food scraps and just walked away. I spent hours trying to fix it, and when I finally did, he just shrugged it off like it was nothing. But that's not even the half of it. Remember how I said he doesn't clean during work days? Well, now he doesn't clean at all. The house is worse than ever. I'm talking about clothes piling up like mountains and trash everywhere. It's like living in a landfill. And the kicker? He blames me for not keeping up. I tried talking to him, laying out how unfair this was. I even made a cleaning schedule, but he just laughed it off. Said it was my job since I'm home more. I couldn't believe it. I was fuming, but I kept my cool. I didn't want to start a fight. Then, one weekend, he did something that changed everything. He decided to clean the garage. It was a disaster zone, and I was actually relieved he was taking initiative. But halfway through, he stormed into the house, yelling about how I never do anything. He said he found old paint cans and rusty tools that were supposedly my responsibility to sort out. I was shocked. I didn't even know they were there. That's when I lost it. I told him I was done being his maid. I said if he wanted to live in a clean house, he needed to pitch in. He just laughed and said I was overreacting. That's when I did it. I packed a bag and left for a few days to stay with a friend. I needed space to think. While I was gone, something unexpected happened. He called me, and for the first time, he sounded remorseful. He said he didn't realize how much he'd been putting on me. He admitted he was taking his work stress out on me, and it wasn't fair. He promised to change, to help out more. I wanted to believe him, but I was skeptical. I came back home, and at first things were different. He started doing his laundry, taking out the trash, even cooking dinner some nights. It was like living with a new person. I was cautiously optimistic. Maybe this was the turning point, but it didn't last. Slowly, he slipped back into old habits. The house started to look like a mess again. He stopped doing laundry and left dishes in the sink. I felt like I was back at the square one. I had to make a tough decision. I loved him, but I couldn't live like this. So, I sat him down and told him I was thinking about leaving for good. It was the hardest conversation I've ever had. He looked at me, eyes wide, and I could tell he was scared of losing me. He begged me to stay, promised he'd do better. I agreed to give him one last chance, but I made it clear this was it. If things didn't change, I was out. And you know what? He stepped up. He started cleaning regularly and not just surface stuff. He mopped, scrubbed, and even organized the pantry. It was amazing. But here's the bittersweet part. Even though the house is cleaner and he's doing his share, the resentment lingers. I can't shake the feeling that he's only doing this because I threatened to leave. It's like the trust in our relationship has been damaged, and I don't know if it can be repaired. So, that's where we're at. The house is clean, but the air is heavy. I'm grateful for the change, but I'm not sure if it's enough to save us. It's a tough spot to be in, but at least I'm not drowning in clutter anymore. Thanks for reading this update. Ada for digging up deleted messages. After finding my wife's nude photo on her phone, married 5 years, together 11, no kids. I thought we had no marital problems. Yesterday I, 36-year-old male, went onto my wife's 32-year-old female phone and was looking through her photos. I found one taken the day before of her unclothed. I was super surprised as I hadn't seen it before, so checked her messages. She had sent it to a customer from her work. She works in a gym. The picture was preceded by a text from him asking her to cheer me up. There were more messages too, but I didn't read them, except for seeing they all ended with lots of 6 kisses. I confronted her straight away, throwing her phone on the bed. She picked it up, deleted the conversation, and was super apologetic, telling me she loves me, etc., and that she made a dumb mistake. She said she has been texting him for around 1 month and just got caught up with the attention. Apparently, he has a girlfriend, has never sent my wife unclothed, and this was the first one she had sent him. She told me that she hadn't met up with him outside of work, never physically cheated. She's currently at work and is due back in a bit, where I plan to ask her to give me her phone, because I Googled recovering iPhone messages, and it says it can be done within 30 days. If she refuses this, I think I will seriously consider divorce. Part of me doesn't want to read the messages between the two of them, but I feel like I need to see exactly what was said before deciding what to do. I don't think I believe her that it was the first unclothed she sent. As far as I know, she hasn't done anything like this before, except for around 1.5 years ago, when I got jealous because she was sending messages on Instagram to a gym training partner in the early hours in the morning whilst drinking with her sister. The conversation was deleted by the time I saw it, but the picture I did see and was innocent. I just didn't like the fact that she was messaging a guy in the early hours of the morning, but we moved on from this. I know it's easy to say just get a divorce, etc., but life is complicated. I don't want to just end my marriage, and myself behaved a bit shitty when I had a crush on her sister around 2.5 years ago. I got quite close to her sending messages/snaps, but never did or said anything inappropriate, and neither did her sister. My wife eventually got sick of how much we were messaging and blew up at me. I now keep a distance between myself and her sister. I would like to move on from this, but not sure how. I think I want a clear understanding of an open phone policy. I want to know who he is because I currently have no idea. He has no social media, Yunt's shock. I train at my wife's gym, and if I saw him, my blood would boil, but I think if he was talking to me and I didn't know it was him, that would be worse. Not sure what else I can suggest. Maybe relationship counseling. I have actually mentioned this in the past, and she didn't want to do it. Is there any coming back from this? Does anyone have advice who has been in similar situation, and if what they did and changed to make it work? Feeling sad. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I don't think she has forgiven you for flirting with her sister. There is a deep lack of trust in this marriage, and I don't think there is going to be a happy ending for you two. It sounds like you're both still in this thing, not because you really want to be married, but because getting a divorce would be too much work at this point. Given half a chance, you both would rather spend your energy on other people. And in your case, even her family members aren't off limits. Counseling won't do anything if your hearts aren't in it. And your hearts just aren't in it. Comment 2. You don't have to pull the trigger on divorce right now, but you need to do 2 things. Talk to a lawyer ASAP to at least know how to protect yourself if it comes to that. You can and should prioritize yourself and your future without ending the relationship immediately. Also, get some therapy to help you deal with this trauma, and it is trauma, and understand what you really need. Good luck, and let us know how it goes. Now, for the update. Thanks for the comments on my last post. So, the week's been pretty tough. My wife came home from work and I asked for her phone. She handed it over, but guess what? All the messages were gone. She had deleted everything. I was fuming, but I kept my cool, or at least I thought I did. I told her I wanted to recover the messages, and she just nodded, saying she understood, but didn't think it was a good idea to dwell on the past. I went ahead and tried to recover the messages anyway. I found a service online, paid for it, and waited. While I was waiting, I couldn't help but think about the guy from the gym. I started watching everyone, wondering if it was him. It was driving me nuts. Then, the messages were recovered. It was worse than I thought. They had been flirting for weeks. It wasn't just one picture. There were others. My heart sank. I confronted her again, and she broke down, saying it was all a mistake, that she got carried away, and it meant nothing. I didn't know what to do. I felt like a doormat. She was walking all over me, and I was just taking it. I wanted to scream, to throw things, to make her feel as bad as I did. But I didn't. I just sat there feeling sorry for myself. A couple of days later, I was at the gym, and this guy comes up to me, starts chatting. He's friendly, and I'm responding, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, is this him? Then he mentions my wife, says she's a great trainer, and it clicks. This is the guy. I felt my blood boil, but I didn't let on. I just nodded and walked away. I couldn't take it anymore. I told my wife we needed counseling or I was out. She agreed this time. We started going and it was rough. All our issues came out, not just the cheating. The counselor said we had to rebuild trust, and it was going to take time. Then, out of nowhere, my wife's sister calls me. She's in tears, saying she's sorry. I'm confused until she tells me she knew about the affair. She had seen the messages a while back when my wife left her phone at her place. She didn't know what to do, so she kept quiet. I was furious. I felt betrayed by not just my wife, but her sister too. I didn't know who to trust anymore. I felt alone, even though I was surrounded by people. I started to pull away from everyone, even my friends. I just went to work, went to counseling, and went home. The counseling was helping, I guess. We were talking more, and my wife was trying to be more open with her phone, her time, everything. But I couldn't shake the feeling of being walked over. I kept thinking about the guy from the gym, about my wife's sister, about how everyone seemed to know but me. Then yesterday, I found out the guy from the gym was moving away. He got a job in another state. I should have been relieved, but I wasn't. It felt like he was getting off easy while I was stuck here, picking up the pieces of my marriage. I'm still here, still trying to make it work. But it's hard. Every day is a struggle to trust, to love, to feel like I'm not just a doormat. But I'm trying for my marriage, for myself. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.